When I returned home, I found the shoes of another woman in the hallway. I had been away suffering through long hours of difficult delivery and was relieved to be finally home with my newborn. My few days old daughter was sleeping soundly in my arms. However, my heart was thumping faster and faster despite her calm breathing. I quietly walked into the back of the house, trying not to make sound with my footsteps. It was probably the only relief that my daughter was asleep. When I got to the bedroom door, I heard my husband and a mysterious woman chatting happily. I was choked by the surge of shock, and my mind went blank. In the midst of it all, I managed to keep my sanity with the presence of a tiny new life in my arms. I felt sorry for putting her in the middle of such a painful situation and apologized to her in my head. I gently opened the door and looked through the narrow crack to see what was going on inside. There they were. Oh my God, it's her. My husband Jordan and I met at a volunteer group. My friend Christy invited me to go with her, and there he was. He was friendly and funny and talked to us frankly. Not only was he a good communicator, but he was also very active in volunteer activities. He was willing to take up projects that were said to be hard and stressful. He was admired by people around him, and of course, I was one of them. Because of his intended experience, he had no trouble getting the job he wanted. I followed his example and did my best in both volunteering and studying. As a result, I landed a job in the firm I wanted. While celebrating with Christy at a bar, we bumped into Jordan for the first time since he graduated. I was so excited to see the guy I had admired for the first time in a long while that I asked him out to a movie on the spot. He happily took up my offer, and we started going out from the day we had the first date. A year later, we were married. Christy was surprised at the speed, but I was confident that he would be the one for me. Although I had little experience with men, I felt strangely comfortable with him. It's delicious. You're the best cook. I saw this recipe on SNS and thought it looked good. I'm so lucky that you like cooking. It's nothing compared to your study. It's hard, isn't it? I nodded as I got the gumbo he prepared for me. I was in the middle of preparing for the difficult certification exam. Since we both had a job, we had divided the housework between him for the cooking and me for the cleaning, but I had been leaving the most to him. I was planning to get myself back to the chores after the exam was over. It must have been tiring to take care of the house while working, but he had taken up the extra without a grim look on his face. I was glad to have found a wonderful man. After that, I passed the exam with flying colors. He was happy for me, and I was able to earn more income with the certification. However, our relationship took an unexpected turn. One day, I felt strangely ill and left work early to go to the doctor. There, the doctor told me the unthinkable. I'm back. Hey, hon. As soon as I heard Jordan's voice, I rushed to the front door. He cocked his head to the side as he took off his jacket. What's up? You're in a good mood. Of course. We are having a baby. The reason for my poor health was pregnancy. When the doctor told me, I was surprised, but also overjoyed. Having kids was always on my mind. I was earning more money than ever, so there was no financial strain. I expect Jordan to be ecstatic to hear the news, but his face turned grave. Congratulations. He walked into the living room, leaving me stunned and disappointed. I told myself that men were like that. As the time went by, feelings of discomfort grew thicker and thicker. I worked until the last minute even though my health was poor. My colleagues told me not to push myself too hard, but I wanted to work as hard as I could. I loved my job that much. Jordan was also in the midst of his busy season, and we both neglected housework. The madness had reached the limit, so I suggested we hire a housekeeper. He then lashed out. Don't waste our money. Why don't you quit your job and do the housework? I couldn't believe my ears at his unexpected reply. From that day on, he stopped doing any chores out of spite. I honestly didn't understand what was going on with him, but I also didn't have the time or energy to discuss it with him. I didn't want to make things worse by saying unnecessary things. If that was the case, I told myself to do the best. I started to take care of the house in parallel with my work. I was sure that he would return to his sweet ways after the birth. One weekend, while pushing my exhausted body to vacuum, I saw something wedged in the sofa. It was Jordan's phone. I picked it up and was about to put it on the table when I heard a yell behind me. I turned around in surprise and saw Jordan glaring at me hard. Don't look at my things! So naughty! I'm sorry, I was just moving it. Whatever, just give it back to me. He snatched the phone away from my hand so viciously that I fell to the floor. He sighed in frustration. Don't be the drama queen just because you're pregnant. My mom said that she worked hard while she was pregnant with me. You're so spoiled. His words felt like a slap on my face, and my mind went blank. Did he really need to say that much? He was disgruntled and stared at me coldly. I feel sorry for the child, having such a pathetic mother. I'm sorry. I reflexively apologized when the child was mentioned. I was going to give birth to and raise a human being. There was no time to discourage or hurt. I apologize for looking at your phone, so don't talk to me like that. Are you blaming me now? You used to be cute, but you've changed. I looked down, hearing the insult coming out of him. The next day, I fainted from anemia at work. I had a will to continue working, but I seemed to reach my limit. I talked to my boss that day and set a date for my resignation. A few weeks later, I visited the hospital again. You're anemic, so there's a good chance you have a difficult natural birth. Is that so? Yes. And it's not so good that you're a little overweight. Try to exercise more and eat healthy. I had countless ideas of what was being said. Jordan's food was tasty, but it was often oily and heavy with high in fat and sugar, the kind of food that so-called men enjoyed. I normally got them all, justifying as storing stamina for busy work. After I became pregnant and started cooking for myself, I thought I had kept the amount in moderation, but it was still not enough. Jordan also looked at me with disdain when he saw me. I wonder if the change in his attitude was also due to my weight gain. We hardly spoke to each other anymore, and our relationship had grown cold. Although I wanted to improve the situation, I had no idea what to do. A few days later, I woke up to find Jordan asleep on the sofa. I could smell the faint odor of alcohol. which made me assume he had come home early in the morning. As I wondered if he had taken out his clients, I covered him with a blanket and noticed something slip out of his pocket. It was a card for a motel known for people to conduct shady business in. Looking at the black card, which gave off an air of unnecessary sophistication, I instantly felt the blood rush to my head. "Wake up!" "What the? Leave me alone!" "Leave you alone? What the heck is this? I'm getting a divorce." His eyes swarmed as I held the card out in front of him. That was the best proof of all. As if the floodgate was opened, my accumulated dissatisfaction poured out of my mouth. Once it started, I couldn't stop it, and the words just flooded out. Tears began to stream down my face, and I felt sorry for myself. I couldn't help but cry out for my brother. We were tight-knit, and he was always there for me whenever I was in need. It was a remnant of my childhood. I still called out to him when my emotions were running high. I knew I had to stop doing that, but when I was in panic, my mouth moved before I could think. I expected Jordan to laugh at me, but his face turned pale to my surprise. "I'm sorry. It's my fault. I apologize for everything I've done, and I'll start doing the housework. Please don't mention divorce. It's going to cause trouble for your brother, so please." He got down on his knees and apologized right then and there. Although I was stunned by the sudden turn of events, looking at the top of his head made me angry again. I called a divorce lawyer anyway afterward, and the day ended there. A few months later, I was in the cab headed for the hospital. Contractions started in the morning, so I ran some errands first and headed straight there. Although I had been taking care to improve my health since the doctor's warning, I was going to end up in the hospital for a bit longer. I sent a message to Jordan, asking him to take care of the house and lean back against the seat. Since that day, he had done his best to take care of the house as he promised, and had made my life a lot more comfortable. I was well aware that it wasn't because he cared about me. I knew that, so I didn't even ask him to be at the delivery. I was going to give birth alone and raise the child by myself. I was determined to do so, and pat my stomach. After the birth and rest, I returned home. My daughter was sleeping comfortably in my arms. When I went inside, I found, as I had expected, the shoes of another woman. I felt sorry to putting her in the middle of such a painful situation and apologized to her in my head. Then I went straight to the bedroom and found Jordan and Christy lying naked on the bed. They both froze for a moment, then started freaking out. "Oh no, this isn't what you think!" "Honey, listen to me!" They ranted and raved, but it was no longer any of my business. "I'll contact you about the alimony and child support later through my lawyer. In the meantime, can you two strangers get out of my house? This is my house." "Strangers?" "Yes, strangers. Come on." "What are you talking about? This is my house too, and I'm not leaving. Anyway, I know you had an affair. If it's not my kid, then there's no reason for me to pay child support." Jordan puffed out his nostrils. Christy, who was a nurse, told him that the gestation period was 40 weeks, so mine was off. He counted backward from my due date and realized that I got pregnant on the day he went on his business trip. That meant that my daughter must have been another man's and not his. He was proud of himself after he said it all, but Christy was looking down in silence. That was not surprising. He was making a big mistake. Seriously? You need to take up proper sex education. Christy, you're a nurse. Please, teach him the right stuff. After seeing her tremble in fear, I turned to Jordan. I explained that the due date was not from the day of implantation, but calculated from the first date of the mother's last menstrual period. I also added that it was hardly ever right on time. There was no way that Christy didn't know that. In other words, she knew and gave him the misinformation, probably to discredit me. Were you trying to get us divorced by blaming me and try to get a share of the property? No way! If you could get a scoop on the popular tax consultant having an affair and getting a divorce, you might have been able to get a lot of money, right? I became a licensed tax accountant while working and then turned my career into writing. I had been writing easy-to-understand articles about finances, and my name was slowly gaining recognition in the industry. I even received an offer to publish the book. Jordan must have noticed that I was making more money than him and was probably planning to take advantage of that. He finally realized the situation he was in. Anyway, we're still married. Oh, about that. I've already served you with divorce papers. What? His stupid face almost cracked me up, but I managed to hold it together. The day I went into labor, I stopped my lawyer's office before going to the hospital. I had already hired a professional to find out the other woman and collect evidence of the affair. The dashcam recorded their candid conversations such as, "How stupid is she not realizing about us? Too bad to divorce, she's loaded now." I found out that he was also spending our savings on her. Get it? My brother bought his house, and it's in my name. You strangers who got nothing to do with it are not allowed to stay here. If you don't start moving, I will call my lawyers and the police. I threw their belongings out the window as I declared. The two finally understood the gravity of the situation and began to get dressed. I shouted at them as they walked out with their tail between their legs. I won't go easy on the alimony. A few months later, "Hey, you're on the TV again. This isn't a muscle training show. I'm a muscle lawyer, you know. Look, Vicky, my biceps." Don't teach her weird things. My daughter, Victoria, and I are living near my parents now. My brother comes over almost every day, and he's always so smitten with Vicky. I bet his client would be shocked to see the talented lawyer sought after on TV melts at the sight of my niece. After that, my brother sent legal documents with the DNA certificates to Jordan's parents. It was proof that Vicky was his legitimate daughter. He also sent a statement of alimony and child support, as well as the reimbursement for the use of the savings. Jordan knew that my brother could easily do something like this, so he simply apologized when I mentioned divorce that day. Although he and Christy resented my brother and left slanderous comments on his SNS and blog, they were immediately sued for defamation. Furthermore, a group of people active on the internet called the Identification Team pinned them down right away. I am not as famous as my brother, but I am recently become known to the public. A popular blogger and the easy-to-understand tax consular, Sky's ex-husband is a criminal? When I saw the article title, I almost fell over. Christy was also identified in the article, and the image of them she had uploaded to her SNS in the past was revealed. She received bashings and has now quit her job as a nurse. The article prompted my fellow members to the volunteer group to contact me. They said that Jordan had a bad reputation since he was a student. Although he was good to his juniors, he pushed troublesome jobs to his peers. He also always took the initiative in doing the most prominent jobs. The company he wanted to work for was putting a lot of effort into volunteer work, so he only volunteered to score points to get hired. The only reason he was kind to me was because he was a womanizer. He had a tendency to easily get involved with a woman. He is now lining up for a soup kitchen organized by a volunteer group. I hear there's a woman next to him, so it must be Christy. Seriously, I had no sense in choosing a guy. If you're going to get married again, get a guy like me, sis, says a never married single guy. Vicky is beaming happily in his arms. The future I'm going to share with this girl has just begun.
Huh? Weren't you supposed to be in the hospital? No, I just threw my back out. What? I immediately called my husband. Where are you right now? He replied,
In my mom's hospital room. I'm in the middle of getting an explanation, so please, don't call me.
And he hung up right away. At that moment, I knew he was lying. Shall we leave this house then? My mother-in-law asked, and I strongly nodded in agreement. My name is Kim, a 29-year-old full-time housewife. My husband Nathan and I have been married for a year. As newlyweds, we have been enjoying every day living happily. The weather is really nice today.
You're right. Shall we go for a drive?
Great idea! Let's go. We are quite spontaneous, often going out on the spur of the moment. On this particular day, we drove far to a tourist spot and even ended up booking a hotel on the spot and staying overnight. Nathan and I met through work. I was a magazine editor and he was a salaryman working for a large company. I met him when I was covering his company. I don't want to sound conceited or anything, but apparently he fell in love at first sight when we first met. After working together for several weeks, he asked for my phone number when we said our final goodbyes. From there, we started going out on dates, gradually closing the distance between us. Then he confessed his feelings, and our relationship began. After about a year of dating, he proposed and we decided to get married. I was attracted to his very gentlemanly and devoted personality. He always treated me with great care. I think he was nicer than anyone I've ever dated. So I was happy when we decided to get married. I was convinced that we would definitely have a happy married life. After that, we met each other's parents. My parents also seemed to quickly take a liking to him, and his parents were very fond of me. We're delighted to have such a lovely woman as you for a daughter-in-law.
Are you sure you're okay with Nathan? Hey, what's that supposed to mean, Dad?
He seemed to get along well with his parents and enjoyed their conversation. His parents' house was in the countryside, and he had moved to the city for university. So his parents seemed very happy when he came home. Our family's meeting went smoothly, and we got married. At the wedding, we were very happy to receive blessings from many people. Then began our married life. Even after a year, I still felt happy and thought marrying him was the right choice. He has said he wanted me to become a housewife after we got married. So I retired upon our marriage and became a full-time housewife. He works for a large company, so we can live comfortably even if I'm a housewife. Having worked very hard before, I personally found the time spent as a housewife to be like the rest. I always liked housework and had thought I would want to make elaborate dishes if I had the time. Now I feel very happy cooking delicious food and serving it to Nathan.
This hamburger is super tasty. The cheese inside is the best. The demi-glace sauce is so delicious. How do you make it?
He happily says these things while stuffing his mouth. I feel very happy just seeing him eat and enjoy the food. I thought I would continue to do what I can in housework and support my husband by cooking delicious food. But recently, he has become quite busy at work.
Sorry, I don't need dinner today.
Oh, okay. I feel a little lonely reading the message from my husband at work. He seems to be overwhelmed by work now, working late every day. So he seems to be making do with eating something like Chinese food or pizza at the office.
Everyone in the team is working hard together, so I can't be the only one to leave.
That makes sense. He was always working hard like that, due to the responsibility he had as a section manager. So even when I felt lonely, I couldn't complain to him. Plus, I also thought that my husband, who worked so hard at his job, was attractive. So during the weekends, I was cooking elaborate, nutritious, and delicious meals for him. Because of his overtime fatigue during the weekdays, he spent most of his weekends at home, relaxing. He no longer stayed as active as he used to, but I was happy that we could spend time together. However, after continuing this lifestyle for about 2-3 months, his attitude started to change.
I'm home.
Welcome back. You're late. I thought you'd be back as usual since I didn't get any message.
Huh? Oh, sorry. I thought I had messaged you.
Back then, whether his busy period was over or not, my husband was basically coming home around 8 p.m. without doing any overtime. But recently, he has been coming home around midnight more often. Are you doing more overtime again?
Yeah, it's a bit busy again.
I felt a slight discomfort in his response at that time. It was as if he was hiding something. Even so, wanting to believe him, I didn't question him further. After all, he might really be busy with work, and I didn't want him to think that I was a nagging wife. However, my husband came home late again without any notice. Hey, you didn't send me any messages tonight again. The dinner I made is going to be a waste if you don't let me know.
Oh, sorry. Then I'll eat it for lunch at the office tomorrow.
No, I made curry tonight.
Oh, I see. I'm sorry.
With that, he went to take a bath. I felt something was off then as well. He took his smartphone with him to the bathroom. It's something he never did before. He often used to leave it on the living room table. Moreover, while he claimed he was doing overtime, he didn't seem to be particularly tired. Rather, he seemed to be in a good mood. What on earth was going on? And spent my days feeling uneasy, wondering about this. Even on holidays, he was saying that he had work and leaving the house. Was he really working? I was filled with feelings of loneliness and suspicion towards my husband, and every day was depressing. Being alone at home, my thoughts would increasingly veer towards the negative. So, I decided to work part-time. When I talked to him about it, he said it was completely fine. It would have been nice if he had agreed to me working part-time from the time we got married, but since he said it was okay for me to work, I decided to be happy with it. So I started working outside the house for the first time in a long time. I took up a part-time office job in a small to medium-sized company. Interacting with people other than my husband after a long time was good for my mental health. And even though I was feeling a little uneasy about him, I didn't have to worry too much. For a while after that, I was able to spend my days without any particular problems. My husband was still often late, returning home, and seemed busy with work on weekends. But thanks to my part-time job, I wasn't so dependent on him anymore. Having my own job really is a good thing. Then one day, something happened that made me worry. It was when I was at home. Suddenly, I received a call from Nathan. I answered the phone thinking how weird for him to call me like this. Hello, what's up?
Hey, Kim. It seems that my mom was taken to the hospital in an ambulance.
What? Is she alright?
Well, she's conscious, so she seems okay for now. I'm worried, so I'm going to go see her and stay in the hospital tonight.
Alright, I'll be there right away too.
No, it's okay.
Huh? Why?
You have your part-time job tomorrow, right?
But this is a serious situation for your mother, so I'll call in for a day off.
No, you don't have to do that. It would be a bother to your workplace. I'll go first, and once things settle down, you can visit her. Besides, she might not need to stay in the hospital for long.
Okay. Although I wasn't convinced, I decided to listen to him for the time being. But the next day, something unexpected happened. After I finished my part-time job and returned home, the intercom rang. To my surprise, it was my mother-in-law standing there. I opened the door surprised. Weren't you supposed to be in the hospital? Hospital? Yes, because Nathan told me that you were taken to the hospital in an ambulance and need to be hospitalized. No, I just threw my back out. What? Your back? Yes, embarrassingly, it happened all of a sudden. But that was about a month ago. Oh, is that so? But Nathan said, huh? What do you mean? She looked confused. I was on a trip with a friend yesterday and I thought I'd come to give you a souvenir. I was planning to go back home tonight. It seemed that she had just happened to visit our house. Kim, did Nathan call you saying that I was taken to the hospital in an ambulance yesterday and needed to be hospitalized? Yes. He insisted he would go straight to your hospital from work and told me to prioritize my part-time job and visit you later. This seems strange. Let's give him a call. Okay. I immediately called my husband, putting the call on speaker so she could also hear. Where are you now? I asked my husband. He responded,
I'm in Mom's hospital room. They're explaining her condition, so please don't call me.
And abruptly hung up. I knew then that he was lying. My mother-in-law looked surprised. What kind of explanation? She murmured, then called my husband.
Hello, Mom. What's up?
He answered the phone as if nothing was out of the ordinary. Where are you?
Where? I'm at the office.
Are you really at the office?
Yeah. What's going on? Why are you asking me that?
He seemed confused by her questioning. There's a lot of noise and voices in the background.
Oh, that. Yes, well, there's a parade passing by outside the office. It's quite noisy.
I see. I'm actually currently in New York. I was thinking I could drop by your office for a visit.
What? That's a bit inconvenient.
Why? I need to meet and thank your superiors and colleagues.
It's unusual for a parent to suddenly show up at work.
Well then, can I see you after work? I came all the way to New York, so I'd like to see your face before I go home.
Oh, well, I'm a bit busy today. I'll probably have to work overtime until around 11 p.m.
I prompted my mother-in-law with a note on my phone suggesting she say, I'll stay at your house and wait with Kim. She nodded and told him, Well then, I'll stay at your place and wait with Kim. You're off work tomorrow, right? It's the weekend. His confusion escalated even further.
What? That's a bit...
Why not? He stumbled over his words, clearly distressed. Then he began to make surprising remarks.
Actually, Kim is not comfortable with you, Mom.
What? I gasped in my heart at his words. My mother-in-law and I exchanged surprised looks. I shook my head, insisting that it wasn't true, and she seemed to understand. We both realized that Nathan was hiding something and was up to no good. Understood. Sorry for being selfish. I'll quietly go back home.
I'm sorry, Mom. I'll make it up to you next time.
No need for that, she said before hanging up the call. Both she and I were in a state of shock for a while. Then, with a determined look, she said, "I'm sorry for my stupid son, Kim. You can leave him. Continuing this marriage will only bring you misery." It was clear my husband was having an affair. It's Friday today. He is probably going on a weekend affair trip. Yes, I'll leave him. "Shall we leave this house then?" she asked, and I nodded strongly. I'm grateful that she was on my side. My husband had betrayed me, lied to his mother, and even fabricated the horrible lie that she was hospitalized. Worse, he claimed that I didn't like my mother-in-law. She quickly informed her husband about the situation. He was outraged when he heard the story and drove over the next day.
I'm really sorry for my stupid son.
No, it's not your fault. With the help of my in-laws, I moved my belongings back to my parents' house. We're very sorry for our stupid son. No, thank you for helping her move. Thanks to my in-laws, I was able to move all my belongings back to my parents' house. From now on, I guess it's all about gathering evidence. Yes, that's right. I have a little plan. As we took a break in the living room, my mother-in-law suggested a strategy. We all agreed to go ahead with this plan. About 3 days after I moved back to my parents' house, Nathan contacted me.
Oh, are you not home?
I replied to my oblivious husband. Actually, my dad has just thrown his back out. I need to help out with chores around the house, so it seems I'll be spending some time at my parents' house. Is that okay? When I sent this message, his response was,
All right. Tell your dad to take care.
The ease with which he agreed hinted that he was indeed having an affair and likely planning to meet his mistress while I was away. I immediately requested an investigator to gather evidence, and because of his carelessness, it took only about a week to collect everything. With the evidence at hand, I returned home. My in-laws agreed to be present, and we waited for Nathan to return from work in the house we had shared. He was surprised to find both me and his parents there.
What's going on? Kim, Mom, Dad, why are you all here together?
He stuttered, clearly unsettled. We have something to discuss. Sit. I told him in a cold tone. Nervously, he sat across from me. You know what this is about, don't you?
What are you talking about?
He tried to play innocent, but I sighed. You lied about your mom being hospitalized. I know about the affair.
Oh.
He froze at my blunt words. These are the photos proving your affair, I revealed, spreading the investigator's photos across the table. His face turned pale at the sight. You're despicable, lying about your parents' misfortune, deceiving and betraying me, and to make up such a nasty lie that I dislike your mother?
But how did you...
When your mom called you, I was listening right next to her.
What?
And just as I thought you were having an affair. I'm disgusted. I can't continue this marriage with you. We're done. Panicked, he blurted out.
Wait, let's reconsider this divorce.
But his parents would not stand for it.
Enough is enough. Accept the consequences for your actions.
It's unbelievable that you would exploit me and hurt Kim. Regardless of what you have to say, accept Kim's request for divorce and pay the consolation money as a sign of your remorse. As his parents roared, my husband cowered, completely intimidated. And with that, he agreed to divorce as instructed. I truly appreciate the support of my in-laws throughout this ordeal. Afterwards, I was able to divorce and demand consolation money from my ex-husband and his mistress. It turned out that my ex had been having an affair with the daughter of his company's executive director. Furthermore, his mistress was engaged, and her fiancé also demanded consolation money from my ex. It seems that her fiancé was the son of a president of a crucial business partner of the company, and this affair scandal almost led to the dissolution of their business relationship. As a result, my ex was fired from his job as a form of taking responsibility. However, my in-laws had severed all ties with him due to their disgust, leaving him unemployed and burdened with a debt in the form of consolation money. He's now working as a part-timer, with most of his income going towards debt repayment, leading a life of poverty. He entirely brought this upon himself, and honestly, it serves him right. On the other hand, I was offered full-time employment at the company where I had been working part-time. The people I work with are all wonderful, and I'm delighted to have become a full-time employee in such an enjoyable workplace. And just like old times, I plan to devote myself to my work, contribute to the company, and move forward in my new life.